Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Healthy, Fit, and Pain-Free podcast. I am your host, Doc T, and this is episode 53. So, we're doing another edition of Question of the Day. So, this question comes from Ashley, and it is, I want to get stronger, but have injured myself in the past. Please help. Okay. So this actually is really good timing because this is Thursday, I'm about to give a presentation tonight for Janice Gentleman's Interactive Network. Now, obviously, by the time you listen to this tomorrow or later, it's going to be too late for that. But that's actually what I'm talking about, is getting stronger. So this is a perfect time to go over this, and so I wanted to address this question. So, the title of my talk for the event is To Live Long, You Need to Get Strong. And first I'm going to give a little bit of background about why we need to get strong, why strength is so important, because some people just, unlike Ashley, there are people out there that they limit the efforts they put towards getting strong because they're like, the bang for my buck is just not there. And that's simply just not true. So, without further ado, for one thing, a lot of times people will make comments such as, I'm not an exercise person, I don't like lifting weights. For others, it's, I've been told before that I shouldn't lift weights, especially like medical providers. This happens a lot, is you shouldn't be lifting heavy from the floor. You should really watch what you lift because it's bad for your back. You should just focus on cardiovascular training because the heart is the most important muscle in the body. And for some, there's just simply like, I work, I don't have the time, it's not a priority to me. And that simply just cannot be the case. And here's why. So, first and foremost, why should we get strong? Well, there was a study done at Harvard that found that 3 to 5% of the population, mostly this was done in males, but females are actually at worse risk, is after the age of 30, they just develop what's called a 3 to 5% muscle mass loss. And this is known as sarcopenia. Now, there was another study done by the epidemiology of sarcopenia that found this could actually be as high as 8% every 10 years. Now, to give you a perspective of that, that's a male who's 180 pounds losing 14 pounds of muscle every 10 years. That's a lot. And, as I say, unfortunately, this is where I kind of look at the body like, what in the living hell, body, is that why can't we lose 10 pounds of fat every 10 years? Be like Benjamin Button, right? But unfortunately, no. There's a risk of losing that. So that's the first thing, is strength training and resistance exercise can really help overcome sarcopenia. And, strength training, let's look at it from a functional aspect, right? Do you have the capacity to do the things that you need to do on a daily basis? Can you go up and down stairs, especially with weight? Like a basket of laundry or something. Can you get up and on and up off the floor, to play with your children or grandchildren? Can you take that bag of mulch multiple times and take it around back to the back of your house? Can you do these things? Do you have the capacity to do what you need to do on a day-to-day basis? And many of you are out there probably thinking, no, I don't. And if you don't, a lot of times it's not yes, cardiovascular has a lot to do with it, but it's your strength. Are you strong enough? Are you resilient enough to do that? Now, there's other things that come into play too. Strength training can really help with your hormones. It can help with testosterone, which is also important in women, despite what we think. It can help with growth hormone. It can help with insulin like growth factor. Like, all these things are really come into play. And if we're not providing that intense, strenuous stimulus to our body, we're not going to have those adaptations. And I know people like to, blame age. And this is too, like I was talking with Ashley about this, and she brought up, I'm just getting older, and I feel like every time I step in the gym, I'm getting injured. Well, that's not really true. In my opinion, age does not come into play. I think most of the time it's the fact is, as we get older, we have more stress. This could simply be your work, your boss. If you're a parent, this is a big thing. Even if you're just married, this is a big thing. Now you can talk about inflation, which that's as far as I'm going to go there. But there's all these conveniences that we have in our lives now, which means we don't have to be as active. We try to fit way too much on our plate because things are so convenient, and we just feel wiped out. And honestly, strength training and resistance training and exercise in general just doesn't become a priority. And some of you like to exercise, so like Ashley is a good instance that she likes to exercise. Some of you don't. But if you're listening to this, you must be at least a little bit interested. So to give you an idea of how much you should be doing, the American College of Sports Medicine recommends that at least 2 to 3 times a week you perform multi-joint exercises. Now, what this means is you're not just doing isolated machine-based exercises. I know. I just upset someone out there who they go to the gym and they just do like a little arm workout, or they pick up their weights at home while they're walking in the kitchen and start just doing whatever with them and think that's going to work, but it's not. It needs to be multi-joint, and it needs to be 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. This is at least a starting point. So if you're not doing this, if you're doing more, doing less, this is going to give you an idea of where you need to be. Now, also understand that 8 to 12 reps, for anyone out there who's ever been to a physical therapist, they've heard this rep range many times before. And it's because it's a very good rep range because it covers a lot of bases. Unfortunately, 8 to 12 reps is better for hypertrophy and a little bit of strength. So hypertrophy is muscle growth and a little bit of strength. But in reality, the real beauty, the real core of that is like 3 to 6 reps. And that's 3 to 6 reps of where you're doing pretty intensive exercises. That's one thing we really try to do with our programming here every so often is we cycle in, 3 to 6 reps for strength training. We cycle in 8 to 12, 12 to 15, 15 to 20. We want to make sure we cover all bases. Because again, strength training you can get stronger based off of 30% of 1 rep max, which is very low. But you have to have the right stimulus. And again, the more bang for your buck is going to be getting in those lower rep ranges with higher weight. Now, everyone knows, and we're getting there. We're getting to the meat of the problem here. Everyone knows that exercise is good for you, right? Very few people would argue with that. Yeah, and for both men and women, as you get older, this is a big thing. Resistance training reduces risk of osteoporosis. It reduces risk of diabetes. Again, we're talking about hormones and some of those. It improves tissue resiliency, so it makes your bones, your tendons, your ligaments stronger. Well, your bones and tendons stronger, and your muscles, obviously. It improves brain function, and I'd argue it makes you look good naked. Some would agree, some wouldn't agree, but it's there. And so typically, it's not necessarily that people don't know. Again, the rep ranges, the sets, all that stuff, we just kind of covered there so you have a better idea. But people typically don't know where to start. So like Ashley, for instance. Ashley has had back pain in the past. And it makes her a little bit hesitant to start strength training because, again, she jumps into it and she hurts herself. And she wants to. She kind of likes it, but it's just... Again, that it's always in the back of her head, right? And at Inner Strength, we call this the optimal functioning paradox. And why optimal functioning paradox is because what I want you to do is I want you, to give you an idea of this, I want you to think of a circle, okay? A very small circle, and this is what's considered your comfort zone. This is the Netflix, this is, the couch, this is the pizzas, this is all that stuff that you just, this is equilibrium for our bodies. We're not doing anything for ourselves, we just enjoy this because we enjoy the R&R. Now, outside of that, I want you to make a huge circle, like a big circle around that small circle, almost like a donut. I know, horrible example to use, right? So this is what's called the overfunctioning zone. So what happens is many times is people, this happens at the beginning of the year most of the time, but people realize that they're out of shape, they need to lose weight, they went up the stairs and they were out of breath, their fat shirt is now fitting too tightly. Actually, someone told me this the other day, and they don't want to get any more fat clothes. And so what happens is they shoot out of this comfort zone, they get a gym membership, they buy the clothes, and they just go they go all intensive, nose to the grindstone, from the comfort zone to that overfunctioning zone. And then what happens? Life happens, overwhelm happens, burnout, maybe even get injured. This is in the case of like Ashley. And so whenever they get injured, they go from that overfunctioning zone back into the comfort zone. They want to go back in that comfort zone. They want to feel comfortable again. They don't want to feel that pain. They don't want to feel that soreness. And then a few weeks later, or a month later, they go past the mirror again. They realize they don't like what they see. They have that emotional response. And then boom, it's back to the overfunctioning zone again. And this is what we call the yo-yo, and this cycle continues. We hear it all the time from people when they first come into us. They've tried everything. They've done everything. And it's not for lack of effort. It's just, again, life happens, overwhelm, burnout, injury, lack of priority like we talked about earlier. So how do we overcome this? Well, we overcome this by what's called the optimal functioning zone. Now, I want you to think about that donut that we just talked about. And now I want you to go to the hole of the donut, that comfort zone, and let's just go a little bit outside of that. This is where we want to start for our optimal functioning zone. What you want to do is you want to start off with, if you're someone who doesn't exercise and wants to get into it, or someone who hasn't exercised for a while because of an injury and you want to get back into it, this is where we talk about, again, back to what the ACSM recommends. Let's start off with 2 times a week. 2 times a week doing full body strength training. And do that for like maybe 20 minutes. More if you need to, 20 to 30 minutes if you have to, but let's start off there. Again, 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps of multi-joint exercises. Okay, so here at Inner Strength we believe in the 7 foundational movement patterns. This is a squat, a hinge such as a deadlift, a push, a pull, a step, a rotation, and a carry. So if you do 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps for all of those twice a week, that's good. Now, granted, that might take you longer than 20 minutes, but there's a starting point. Let's say it takes you a half hour. Now, how the optimal functioning plan works is you have a piece of paper, and let's say you write down 7 squares. Now, we're talking about fitness here. You can do this for nutrition. You can do this for mindset or whatever, but we're just talking about nutrition right now. We're talking about exercise right now. So you put down 7 squares, and that's supposed to represent 7 days worth. Now, like we said, 2 days a week. So you start off, you figure out your 2 days a week, and you cross them out of those 7 squares. If you've crossed out 2 squares by the end of the week, okay. Now we need to increase something. This could be instead of 30 minutes in the gym, or instead of 2 sets of everything, maybe you do with 1 exercise, you go to 3 sets. Not all of them, just 1. 1 exercise, you go to 3 sets. And then you do that for 2 times a week the next week. And then after that, you pick another exercise to do for 3 sets. And you keep that going until all exercises are 3 sets. Once you do that, and this is for both workout days, you pick a different exercise each day to do 3 sets. We'll say that. Once you get to the point that you're down doing 3 sets for everything, now you increase that to 3 days a week. And then once you get there and you hit 3 sets with those, on the 3 days, the third day, you do 2 sets of everything. And then again, same thing. You make 3 sets and you keep continuing that way. And then at the end of that, maybe you go to 4 times a week. If you so desire. If you're the type of person that you want to hit 4 days a week of strength training, this is how you do it. And on and on and on. And this is where you keep from getting injured. Why people get injured is because they go in the first day, they do a workout, and because it's the first day, no one ever wants to go all out. But then it seems easy, and the next day maybe they're not as sore. So they're like, okay, for the second workout this week, maybe I'll go harder. Or maybe not. Maybe the second workout, do the same thing, and then the third workout, they're like, okay, maybe I'll go harder. And then they start going too hard, and stress happens. Maybe their diet's not as locked in as it needs to yet. They're not hydrating as well. They're maybe not, they might sleep better, they might not, depending on life. And then boom, we're right back into the overfunctioning zone. And this is where bad things start to happen. And so what the optimal functioning plan does is it allows you to steadily add that volume, that intensity, what you need to achieve the goals you're striving to do. Rather than go 0 to 60, we're going 0 to 20, and then we're going to hit in second gear, and then third gear, fourth gear, and then fifth gear, and then finally sixth gear. And that's exactly like someone like Ashley, what she needs to do. And this works in various ways. I'm not going to go down into the nuts, the nuts and bolts of it, but this is where if you're worried about that you can't do that maybe the optimal function plan is just too much thinking for you, that's when you need to hire somebody. That's when you need a coach. You need someone, you need a trainer. I use trainer loosely, but you need a strength coach, someone who's certified, someone who knows what they're doing, has the experience, has the track record, who can get you there. Because otherwise what happens is you try to do it on your own, and many times it doesn't work. Now, I know you're sitting there thinking, well, okay, tool-chested meathead Doc T, what are you going to tell me here? But not all of you are like me. Yes, I do research on this stuff. I look at this stuff because I have a passion for it. And, that passion has worked out well in the sense of being a part of Inner Strength. We work with great people and we get to help a lot of people. And so, that's where that passion really comes into play. But if you're not passionate like that, if you don't want to do research on that, then sometimes you need to find someone who will and who can help you do that. It's always an investment in yourself. So kind of to bring this to a close here, I want to use a story. And again, with my talk tonight, I'm going to talk about this story as well. But let's talk about Joe. So Joe was a patient of mine who came to me a few years ago. And Joe was in a really bad place. If you've ever been in a really bad place, if you've ever feel like you hit rock bottom, that's where Joe was. He had no job, couldn't keep a job. He had horrible chronic low back pain. His relationship was falling apart. He was depressed. Again, couldn't keep a job for all the reasons mentioned. But he also had a son to a prior marriage, to a prior relationship, and he felt like a bad dad. Now, if you've ever felt like a bad dad or a bad mom out there, imagine feeling like that all the time because you just don't have the energy or, again, the capacity. And that was Joe. So Joe came to me, and he tried everything. Nothing's worked. And I said, Joe, we're going to approach this a little bit differently. I'm going to put you on a program very similar to the Optimal Functioning program, and that's how we're going to get you where you need to be. Because Joe just needed a win, right? We talked about that earlier, small wins. He just needed a win. So he started off, Joe was lifting 5 pounds off a chair. And eventually it got to the point that Joe was lifting 50 pounds off the floor. And, we were doing a lot of different exercises, again, multi-joint exercises, slowly adding on volume, slowly adding on weight. And Joe was really kicking butt. Now, unfortunately, we had to part ways because, well, insurance. But then a few weeks later, Joe was happy. You saw a change in his talk, a change in his step. His posture was better. Have you ever felt that way? You felt where you've went from rock bottom to now you're on top of the mountain screaming. That was Joe. So a few months later, we got a letter from Joe saying, hey guys, just wanted to give you an update that I'm doing amazing. I'm still strength training to this day. I'm still working out. My pain is minimal. Still get back pain here and there, sure, but my pain is minimal. My relationship is mending. I'm actually about to get a promotion with my job. But best yet, I feel like I'm a good father again. And that's amazing. It's amazing to feel that way. And all it took was, again, those small wins. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that strength training is going to completely change your life. We're not all going to have Joe's situation. But just remember that in all aspects of life, many times you're only as strong as your biggest weakness. And you can't make that weakness be your strength, both mentally and physically. So don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted now. Start, if you haven't yet, start. Start doing your research. Start implementing the optimal function plan. Find someone to help you. Start doing that. And if you already are doing that, just be patient and enjoy it, because one day you could be like Joe. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this. Again, I always appreciate you guys being here. If you want me to answer your next question of the day, please feel free to message me or reach out to me, and I look forward to answering them. Thank you all. Love you. Mwah. Bye.